What's unique about us is that we're still around. It's a unique flavor, so nobody else can do it.
Is it like
Football
a
special.
secret
Oh yeah,
recipe?
very secret. So there's only two people, what people now want is a story, what's the story behind the brands. I'll get people who've never had football special be nostalgic for football special. It's the taste and the style of the product. And all our drinks evoke a sense of a happy time and place. And the beauty of being in Donegal is if you've only had football special on your holidays or in the Gaeltacht, you'll have had a good time when you've had football special. We're famous in Donegal, but we wanted to become world famous from Donegal. Whatever. It is what it is. You've had a bad idea, go do something else. Again, if you're a good person, it's like whatever. You had a bad idea. Who cares? Move on to the next thing. I'm probably most proud that I moved home and that I now have a very happy home lifestyle. I have managed to find security in my personal life that affords me the luxury then to go and mess about at work. You got to be passionate about this. Like, you got to love it because, again, this is cliche to say, but it really is all about the journey. All these blips are going to happen. So you have to take them smoothly, and then the highs, you have to take them smoothly and love everything that you do. I love having to rebuild the past, having to do the rubbish stuff, because then you'll love when the good things happen. We're succeeding in the sense that we are still around
And growing them.
and growing, yes,
Yeah,
and the growth has been fantastic. I love football special, so if I can convey that passion to the retailers and then to the people to try us, then we've got a chance to succeed. If I'm going to stay in America, I want to sell football special to Americans, but that's the dream and that's the goal.
Cheers. It tastes so good. Welcome back to Life in Depth. I'm Ryan McDaid. On this episode, I have the owner of a company called McDaid's Football Special. Seamus McDaid is the great grandson of the founder. The business is in its fourth generation and going stronger than ever. We talk about the story, the history behind the business, the challenges that they've had along the way, why they're still relevant and successful today, and what the future looks like. I hope you enjoy. Seamus McDaid, pleasure to have you today.
Yeah, pleasure to be here, Ryan.
I'm excited to talk about McDaid's Football Special, world famous in Donegal.
That's the tagline. Yeah, that's what football special is. We'd like to think world famous in Donegal. So fourth generation family business. So a business set up by my great grandfather, back in the 1940s, and still around today. And it's still predominantly a Northwest product. It's not just Donegal, but this is the heartland, and it's about, can we succeed for another 4 generations? Really, that's the question marks now.
Yeah, where did it all start?
So it's that my great grandfather was a farmer outside of Ramelton, and he was, by all accounts, a bad farmer but good at other things. So he left the farm, didn't stay farming, and started really wholesaling products around. But it just had, pretty much a traveling shop basically, and he knew the farming community outside of Ramelton, so would buy potatoes from somebody and eggs from somebody else, and then sell them around around Ramelton. My grandfather then, at just some time, inherited a pub in Ramelton, so they got into the alcohol business then. So they owned a pub and they were buying alcoholic products. And they realized, if we're going to wholesale groceries, we should wholesale alcohol as well. So they started wholesale alcohol, and that developed ultimately to bottling Guinness. So in the times that it was in Ireland, I'm talking the early 1960s here, Guinness didn't do everything at St. James's Gate. They just brewed the beer there, and then they sent it out to what in modern terms we would call contract bottlers. And you bottled to their specification. So they had a series of bottlers all over the country, and we then distributed Guinness in North Donegal. So that was the kind of pivotal moment in the business at that time. And what that then led us to was understanding bottling and how it worked. And that generation then went and bought a building in Ramelton that was an old creamery and converted it into a soft drinks factory. They had lots of downtime in the winter, so they would work on soft drinks really in the winter, so that they had something to do when Guinness sales weren't as strong. So that is kind of the genesis of the business. That's where it came from. And one of the things that I'm always keen to stress is that basically every soft drinks brand in Ireland has the same background story. They are all Guinness bottlers back in the day. Um, and even in our own, like in our own county there, Mulrines in Ballybofey, they're now a very large juice company. They bottled Guinness in Ballybofey. They did kind of that region of Donegal. So we all have a similar backstory. What's unique about us is that we're still around. So you can walk. I'm walking to a pub in Nace not so long ago, and it was a really nice pub, and they had their own soft drinks brands, and there was all these old bottles in the 50s all around the place. But they've closed 50 years now. So where the uniqueness of Football Special is that we're still around here, and we've still stood the test of time. So that's the basis of the business that I'm now working on.
Yeah. So when in the downtime, the winters seasons, your great grandfather was manufacturing. Was it just McDaid's Football Special, or was he doing other flavors at the time?
No, so they did other things, and what was probably interesting, from now when we look back now in history, through the 60s, 70s, it wasn't really Football Special they were selling. It was lemonades and oranges and things like that because they were the predominant flavors of the time. They developed Football Special in the 60s, but it wasn't our biggest selling product. Because at that point in time, there wasn't national brands. There was no Club Orange. So if you wanted an orange flavour drink and you were in North Donegal, you bought McDaid's Orange, and you bought McDaid's Lemonade, and you bought McDaid's Cola. As Ireland, I suppose, developed and the market developed, these national brands and then international brands came in. So, if you wanted a cola, all of a sudden you might drink Coca-Cola. You mightn't drink McDaid's Cola. So what became more prominent then was our unique flavors. So obviously Football Special is our most unique, but we do a banana flavor, we do a pineapple flavor. They're all flavors that we've done for a long, long time that now, that in say come the 80s, 90s really started to come to the fore then as the biggest selling products that we do.
Yeah. And why Football Special? How did they create this flavor?
So they, really, the background of it is that my grandfather and his brothers were very heavily involved in setting up Swilly Rovers in Ramelton. And Swilly Rovers had their heyday in the 60s. So won 2 FAI Cups in the 60s and were very, very strong and would have been regarded as the premier Donegal club at that time. And so they knew that that people used to fill the cups and drink alcohol out of the cups, whatever. And they also knew that didn't really fit in with the sporting sort of landscape. So they wanted to develop a product that they could fill the cups with after they won, but that wasn't alcoholic. So they started messing around with flavors. And one of the key advantages that we had was that my grandfather's brother, Eamon, had been sent away to go work in a proper soft drinks factory to learn what to do. So when he came back,
when you say a proper soft drinks factory,
a big, they're long since gone now, but a big brand in Belfast at the time. So
do you know the name?
I actually don't know the name. I think because that's there. Yeah, no, I can't. No, I don't know the name, but a big company in Belfast. So he went to learn the science, I suppose, around it, and he kind of did an apprenticeship there. Came back, and what was key to Football Special was when they would mess around and mix flavors. It is very similar to baking a cake. Like you're just putting different flavors in. It's just it's liquid instead of being anything being solid. My uncle Eamon was very keen on documenting exactly what they put in. So how many milliliters of that flavor, how many milliliters of that, how long did you put that in for, so that whenever we came upon the flavor of Football Special, we were able to replicate it then again. It wasn't the next day. So he went, oh, that's not as good as yesterday's batch. How did we do? He had it all scientifically wrote down, documented, I guess. Mm-hmm. So they were able to get a consistent flavor then. And then one of the additions was they put, it comes with a foamy head so that it looks like, it looked a lot more, but it typically looks like a pint of Smithwick's. Like that's, so it was exciting. So it would fill this cup and then foam out over the top of the cup. So that's like a cool thing to do. And these guys are all at the time still heavily involved with Swilly Rovers. Some of them are, some of my grandfather's brothers are still playing for Swilly Rovers at this time. And, they're going to Dublin to games. Like this is a serious entity, like at the time. So that is where sort of, I suppose, like Football Special sort of became famous then, as Swilly Rovers went, Football Special went with it. So, but it was, not like an exciting non-alcoholic product. So I like to say we were like the first zero alcohol beer, really. We were on that curve long before anybody else thought of. So that's how Football Special came to be.
And the name, was it Football Special?
No, it's called Football Cup originally.
Okay, and when it launched, Football Cup?
Football Cup, yeah.
And what year? Or decade?
The 60s,
okay.
mid-60s.
Yeah.
And then it became football. Somewhere along the way, it became Football Special then.
And was it
So
primarily sold to football teams? Is that kind of the...
yeah, well, they used to bring it with them. Yeah, they'd bring it and they'd put it behind the bar at events that they would go to, wherever, whatever club they would go and play in. You got to remember too, like, they would, talk locally, and definitely hearing in the show, and they would talk about the summer cups and how big they were. I mean, they would be getting 2,000 people at Swilly Park for games and stuff. This was, this was a
Jesus.
huge event that professional footballers would only have from Britain would only have 40-week contracts. So they would be available to play in the summer. So they would come back and play in these summer cups that would have thousands of people at them. And obviously Donegal was always a tourist spot. So there was always tourism in Donegal. So, the summers are always busy in Donegal. So there was always stuff going on. And and Football Special became a part then of the tradition, I guess, of Donegal at that point.
Yes, yes. So, I have fond memories of Football Special as a kid. It was like you're playing football, and then you would get a bottle of Football Special, and it has a unique flavor. And I can't even describe, like, what kind of flavor would you say it is?
Well, I mean, that's the beauty.
Is
of
it like
Football
a
Special.
secret recipe?
Oh yeah, very secret. So there's only two people, the recipe. So me and my dad are not able to be in the one room at the same time now, and all this. It's very highly guarded secret. And it's 7 flavors mixed together, and it tastes totally unique. Again, that's probably one of the reasons. That's certainly one of the reasons that we're still around. It's not just a cola. It's not just anything else. It's a totally unique flavor. In the same way, so if people who haven't tasted it, think about your Iron Brews, your Dr. Peppers. That's what you're going with. It's a blended flavor. And it tastes like Football Special, and you just got to go and get a bottle to try it.
Yeah,
but
we have a few here today.
yeah.
So Football Special's been around since the 60s. I remember it in the 90s, and it only seems to be getting stronger as a brand. You've launched more flavors and an ice cream as well. Has it always been that way from the 60s, or was it just that there was an X amount of flavors and that was kind of the way the business was? Or
No, I mean predominantly what. So if you take it back to when Football Special, it came out again, we're bottling Guinness, we're bottling Football Special, but you can imagine that we're bottling a lot more Guinness than we're bottling a Football Special. Spin that on, then later time we became the Guinness agent for North Donegal, basically, and we became a wholesale company. So we became a very large alcohol wholesaler that had a very small soft drinks brand that we owned, and what ultimately happened is that the business focused too much on wholesaling and didn't focus on the magic that we had, that was Football Special. So nobody in the business really, I mean, I'm sure they thought this, but nobody ever said, we've got to take this Football Special brand and sell it in Cork. What they thought was, we got to sell more alcohol to our key customers in Donegal. And that commercially, that made sense, but it didn't think about what the future would hold. So there's consolidation in the wholesale industry. Again, Donegal is still unique in that there's still probably 6 or 7 alcohol wholesalers around. But if you're in other parts of the country, there's maybe 2 or 3 now. And that's ultimately when that consolidation came around, the wholesale business started to suffer. So in the late, around 2008 or so, we sold off the wholesale company and got out of wholesaling to focus just solely on Football Special. So now all energy of the business only goes into the soft drinks brand. And so that's why you're starting to see it grow, because we're now giving it the proper energy that it needed.
And in 2008, who would have been?
So my dad was in charge then.
Just your dad?
Just my dad, yeah. Yeah, so he took over from my grandfather in the mid-90s. And he did a phenomenal job then of really dragging the business into modern times. Terms of, it's interesting now we're sitting here with a table of glass bottles of Football Special, but I can remember as a child in the 90s, we were only in glass. The retailers did not want glass. No, we did not want, we had to do plastic bottles of Football Special if we wanted to survive. And so my dad went and put a plastic manufacturing facility in, which was a huge step. Now, if he had seen the future, he would have just stayed in glass, because it came back around. Now people think glass is premium and want it again and stuff. And so we're back now manufacturing glass bottles after it being a big to-do to not manufacture glass bottles. But he stewarded the company at that time. We went into plastic bottles, and he then just changed all the systems, things like, really basic things like IT systems. Like my grandfather wouldn't have thought about that as that being a big deal. Everything was kind of cash and stuff. There's no, there's no. It just was. It probably was fine in the late 70s, but by the mid 90s, it's like, oh, hold on, like you're way behind the times here. So he modernized the whole thing, which again has put the business on a footing that I can do something with. He could have easily turned around and said, I can't do this. Like, my dad had a very successful career outside of Football Special. So he really it was a labor of love for him. And thankfully he did it because he kept it alive for me to now to build on.
Yeah. So obviously you're the fourth generation, but as it moved down the generations, I assume there was multiple family members involved here and there, like brothers, sisters.
Yeah. There was, so my grandfather's generation, all of the brothers. Well, no, so two of them moved to Scotland, and the ones who left in Donegal all worked in the business.
So that's his brothers or his sons?
His brothers. So
Okay.
my grandfather's brothers. So my dad's uncles
Yeah.
all worked in the business. And we had other things in Ramelton, like we had a farm outside of Ramelton, we had a shop in Ramelton. The McDaid's was a big entity. There was lots of people working there. But ultimately it ended up being left. It ultimately became just my grandfather's company and his brother Charlie, who had no children. So I guess it became an our branch of the family then. So, and my dad has two siblings. His eldest brother is a priest, so he was never involved in the family business. And then the sister, so again, she was a product of her time. She wasn't going to get the family business. So my dad gets the business, and then I have four older sisters, but my mother likes to say they all have real jobs. So none of them, had an interest in the business. So that's how they all did their time working, and they were quite happy to go off and do something else. So
yeah. And when you came into the business, or when I say when you were growing up, was it like, I'm going to work for, McDaid's Football Special?
Yeah, well, we say me and my sisters all worked. Like, it was a proper family business in the sense that we all spent all our summers working there. And I loved it. Yeah, from very early on, I loved it. But I only loved the Football Special part. I from a teenager, I was like, this is ludicrousy. Like, we're selling, you're my dad, you're stressing out about keg lorries breaking down. You're making very little money. And do Guinness even, do Guinness even know you exist, sort of thing? Like, but why are you focused on this end of the business? Now, as I matured and grew up, I seen financially, that's why I was conservative at that end of the business. But I was very keen. I wanted to do Football Special. Now, I had other passions outside of Football Special as well. So I was lucky that I was able to go and do, I had a career before I worked in the family business, which was key as well to me. Had I came straight into our business, either out of school or out of college, I wouldn't have had the worldly grounding that I now have. So I would be worse at my job now if I hadn't.
Yeah, but is that what kind of you wanted? Kind of to go away do something else?
I thought I could, probably naively, I thought I could go and spend 20 years doing something else and then come back in the business. But it happened a lot quicker than that. Purely because my dad was like, was getting on in years, and he was like, listen, I'm about to turn 70. I want to retire here. Like, do you want this business? Because again, I was living in New York at the time, had a career in New York, had a business in New York. Do you really want to move back to Donegal? But
what brought you to New York? What were you doing?
So my first dream, kind of in parallel being Football Special, I really wanted to be a sports agent. So I'd seen the movie Jerry Maguire, which people will be familiar with, but it's to Show Me the Money. That's the movie. So I said, I want to be a sports agent. I think I can do that. That's a job I'd be good at. So I kind of, in my teenage years, sort of made that my focus. How do I become a sports agent? So did sports management in UCD, and got involved with a guy called Ricky Nixon, who was an Australian agent who was coming to Ireland to sign GA players to go and play Aussie rules football. And he was a very divisive, very controversial character, but it made perfect sense to me. And what I thought was, well, that's my into sports agency world, because I was playing GA at UCD. I was like, these are my peer group. A lot of these players that he's recruiting are the same age as me. I bet you I could get in touch with basically any 19-year-old in Ireland when you're 19, which is true of anybody. So I pitched him that I would be his Irish rep. Ricky had no idea what age I was, so gave me a job. And then I moved to Australia and started managing our clients over there. But I was still in college at this time. Like I was only 19 when I moved to Australia. So I did that for a couple of years. Unbelievable experience. Great. Loved Australia. Melbourne, an amazing city. the AFL is an incredible sport. I loved it. But Ricky, my boss at the time, said, you need to go to America to experience sport. So he set me up with a couple of introductions in New York, and off I went to New York. So I moved there when I was 21, which was important too, because you only needed to be legal drinking age.
Had you just finished your degree then?
I finished my degree.
So you're young, like finishing.
Yeah. I was finished my degree and then then moved to New York. So got a graduate J1 visa then, so you could do it within a year of it being finished. So off I went to New York and started working for a company called 320 Sports, and they looked after. And originally, again, my in was, there's a lot of Australian guys who are punters in the NFL. Let me use my leverage and the people I know in Australia to get in on that. So that's how I got in the door. So did a couple of years managing NFL players, which was, again, an incredible experience. Like,
I can imagine.
And I have to say that in Australia, everything that Ricky Nixon had told me was correct. The way that they do sport in America is incredible, and obviously we'll see it. The NFL games coming to Dublin in a couple of weeks. We will see the pageantry that goes on. How they're able to, how they commercially leverage on their sporting activities is incredible. It's done to the next level, even compared to English Premier League teams. It's incredible what they do. So he was right to say you need to experience that world to properly be good at sports agency, because they're leveraging every single opportunity they can get. They're commercializing every opportunity, which might be a negative to lots of people. But if you're in the sports business world, then it's fantastic. So done that for a number of years, but I suppose.
So you would have worked with a few NFL players then?
Yeah. And I mean, again, their lifestyle is what you can imagine. It was parties and incredible pool houses and stuff like this. It was as flamboyant as you would think. No, not from my perspective. I was doing the rubbish stuff, whatever, but they lived incredible lifestyles. And it was brilliant. But what the difference was is that I did not have an ability to recruit Americans. I couldn't sign my own clients because NFL players, predominantly poor black kids, it was really, really difficult for me to go in and recruit them because they were like, they barely understand me. And it never really worked. And I was never able to, so because I couldn't recruit, I couldn't build my own stable of clients. And I ultimately started to think, these guys they're only making business decisions. So they would go from being on the best team to the worst team if there was more money in it for them. Now, as an agent, you should be advising your client on financial matters. It's a short career. But as a sports fan, I was like, it's a bit sad that they're going to the absolute rubbish teams because they're already earning millions of dollars. They're well set up for life anyway. So I started to think, maybe I'm not really cut out for this world. Maybe I'm too much of a fan to be a properly good agent. So stopped doing that and said, all right, well, what can I do? And said, well, listen, I've always been selling football special. So rang home and said, ship me 2 pallets of football special, and away I go. So I started selling.
What year was that?
Special. That was 2013, maybe.
Okay, so 2013. That's it. I'm in the business.
Yeah,
going full hog.
So I ended up becoming a full service importer in the. So I sold Irish and British products in America. So it ended again. Football special ended up being a small part of my portfolio. I sold a lot more Barry's tea and Tato crisps and stuff like that. But that's where I learned how to sell, I suppose, and how to service customers and all that kind of stuff, and what sold and how you're able to identify products that sell. So I sold Boston, New York, Philadelphia. I probably had the guts of 400 customers by the end. And it was you were just selling all Irish products to the Irish expat community. That's basically it's the diaspora. So be it in Woodlawn in the Bronx in New York where I lived, which is like a 100% Irish neighborhood, going to, Haverton in Philadelphia, going, to Boston, to Green Hills. It's, these are big Irish neighborhoods and things. So like that was incredible. It was a great experience. And then selling football special as well. So,
along with all the other brands.
Everything else, yeah.
And at the time, because obviously it's a Donegal brand, so going there and selling it, who was your customers? Were they Irish Donegal?
Yeah. You're going to, so it's not surprising, like that my second biggest market outside of Ireland is Glasgow, because there's so many Donegal folk there already. So again, there's lots of Donegal folk in Philadelphia. So you're selling, and it's so, to see people when people who are abroad get to see it, it's a great feeling. Like when they see it and they get excited because
I
they're
can
like, I
imagine.
can't imagine they didn't expect to see football special here today.
Yeah.
So that was incredible. So yeah, you're selling. Yeah, you're selling. It's a very astute point that you make. You're selling to Donegal people, And what I ultimately found was, okay, if I'm going to stay in America, I want to sell football special to Americans. And that's a completely different business. That's way harder, because it's a new industry, new market you're selling to. But that's the dream and that's the goal. And it's still the goal today. But, can you make it a national brand in America that's outside of just people who already know you?
Mm. Well, so you came in then 2008, you started working, though selling to America.
Yeah.
But you transitioned then to full-time in McDaid's in Donegal.
Yeah.
Is
So we
that
moved
right?
back in 2019. So my dad would say we wanted to retire. I was just turned 30, and I was just engaged to my wife at the time, and we said she is an American from Queens, New York. I said, "Bis, do you want to move back to Ireland?" Like, it took a bit of convincing, but ultimately I said, if we move now, we're going to get married in Donegal anyway. So, we'll go back, we'll plan a wedding. We've got no children. It's not that hard for us to transition back to New York if things don't go well. But if we wait 5 years, like we'll be married then, we'll have bought a house in New York, or at least we'll be in the process of doing something like that. Then I can't really ever go back. You sort of, um, so we said, yeah, let's go. That's the way we go back to Ireland. So and we ended up, back in Remelton, and thankfully it was a brilliant decision. Thankfully, we never looked back. But that was the reasoning behind coming home then.
Yeah. But you're coming in then as the new leader.
Yeah.
And I assume with a vision.
Yeah. Yes, I had a vision. And now we've done a lot of work. We had a consultant, Malachy O'Connor, was again one of the most important people I've ever met, because he came in and then was able to really help me visualize what the business wanted to become and what we stood for, and all the things. Like, it was really just putting down on paper what we kind of knew. But I had a vision, but I wouldn't say that the vision was vastly different to what my dad's vision of the business was. But it was just, I came at it with a new set of eyes and some energy, some new energy. And you'd say, okay. And I did obviously learn things from America. This idea of craft soda is a big thing in America. We don't really have craft soda in Europe. Doesn't really exist. But by definition, there's no real definition, but anything we actually did some research into try to see if people would define it first. Pretty much anything that's small scale is craft.
Yeah.
So football special has always been craft.
Yes.
So all I did was start saying this is craft soda, and that started to resonate then with retailers. They would say, "Oh, okay, I'll get." So instead of me coming into a spar shop in Mullingar and saying I've got this Donegal brand of soft drink, it's now I've got this craft soft drink that's from Donegal, and that changed I changed the perception, I guess, of the brand then, and that's where we started seeing an increase in sales. Then.
Funny how just the words that you use.
Yeah, and I mean,
it changes the perception.
And the labeling, like, we're looking at the labels here now, and like, so the labels are a retro style label, and people say, "Oh, your labeling is incredible." And I always say to people, I would love to take full credit for the labels, but that's just how the label used to look in the 70s. So all I did was go to the archive, take it. And listen, I know Laura Buchanan in Remelton designed them, and she did an amazing job, because she did take elements that we tweaked as well that were better. And so I wouldn't say she modernized them, but we definitely tidied them a little bit. But that was always in our arsenal. We did, like, we're not, the beauty of football special is I'm not making up a story. We are a fourth generation business. We have been making this for ages. You have stories yourself about playing football and drinking football special. That story is replicated by, thousands of people across the county. So all I need to do is just make that story better known, and make that more known nationally and then internationally. And we've got something. So that's all we've done. We've tried to harness on what we already had and just try, package it better, I guess.
Yeah. So getting out of Donegal then, because it's just known as a Donegal brand. I mean, moving to Galway and telling people like no one had heard of it because it just wasn't in Galway. How have you made steps to get out of Donegal, to get into other counties?
Well, one of the first things we did was really, we focused on food service, really. So by that, I mean, we focused on restaurants and cafes, really. So, spent a bit of time. My best mate lived in the northern quarter of Manchester, really cool part of Manchester. And I remember walking around the coffee shops there being like, there's no soft drink in any of these places. This thing is just packed full of kombucha and stuff, but there's actually no sodas in here. Why wouldn't I develop a soft drink that can go to coffee shops. Now, I didn't need to develop it because I already had it. So, but we put it back in a glass bottle then. So that was kind of important. That was an important step.
When was that?
That was in 2020.
Okay, okay.
So go back into glass and then focus on that cool coffee shop culture, which already exists. So off we went to, went to Dublin and stuff and target coffee shops like that, which we've done. So that's really how it started to grow. So we're in a lot of the specialty retailers around Dublin, your Avoca's, Lots and Co, these sort of places. And then, you mentioned Galway. Then I had on my whiteboard the Dobros in Galway Pizzeria. That was the dream. Like, if I could get there, I went there and they couldn't be nicer people. And they were like, yeah, why not? No, look at your branding. That's cool. Well, let's put that in. And it just flew out of there, and so that gave me the real courage then to be like, okay, if it sells in Galway. So my single biggest outlet for Football Special is in Galway now.
With
It's
the
not in
Dobros.
Donegal, with the Dobros.
Yeah, they're amazing. Their pizza. They run a really good business.
No,
too.
listen, their business is incredible.
Yeah.
And, you couldn't meet nicer people. And everything about their setup is unbelievable. And so we're so lucky to be listed there. And it's great business to be in there. But from our business, they now sell more Football Special than anywhere in Donegal. So when I go to Dublin and people say, oh, listen, that's great, but it's only a Donegal thing. I'd go, well, hold on a second now. My biggest outlet is in Galway. So really what I'm saying is you just need to have the brand just needs to position itself in a place where people will pick it up. It works really well in the Dobros because it's as you said, it's the 19th best pizzeria in Europe. It's the best pizza in Ireland. And then people will try a kind of a cool soft drink that goes along with it. So all I have to now find is sort of more Dobros as such, and that's all. Every year we've sort of picked up more and more things like that.
Okay, so it's like going into, I would say, places that are popular, the people love, and not just your, what's the name, like mainstream restaurants, not where you'll see the Cokes and the.
Yeah, and I do think now, I mean, where we got lucky as well, and this is luck, is that the market came towards us as well. So when I was a teenager, I'm in my mid-30s now, so about 20 years, I remember when Red Bull came to Ireland, right? And everybody wanted Red Bull. Like, all my teenage pals wanted Red Bull. That was the cool product to have. What is now cool, and that was cool, sorry, because that was international, big branded international product. What is now cool is local and small. And is there a story behind it? There's no story behind Red Bull. Like, it's a cool brand, but there's no story behind it. What people now want is what's the story behind the brand. So the market came towards Football Special as well.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't some necessarily, wasn't a genius strategy I had. People want things that have a bit of a story around them now. So, and again, like I said earlier, we have a story around us.
Yeah.
We're not making this up. So it's about doing that, but also being cognizant that, like, it is a soft drink. It's still just a treat product. It still can be sold anywhere. So, one of the other big pivotal moments then is getting in with Lidl. And, because that gives us, like, Lidl can put us into 229 stores all over the island. And that means that people can go to their local Lidl and pick up Football Special. And that accelerates my growth, obviously, a lot, because they're ordering for 229 stores, so that can be game changing for the brand.
Yeah, and I suppose when you're talking about that, I'm thinking about parents seeing a drink called Football Special, buying it for their kids, going home playing football, and it just trickles through.
Yeah, and what is great is when people pick up the product and people so I'll get teenagers being nostalgic for Football Special. Like, I'll get people who've never had Football Special being nostalgic for Football Special. It's the taste, the taste and the style of the product. And all our drinks evoke a sense of time and place, a happy time and place. And the beauty of being in Donegal is if you've only had Football Special on your holidays or in the Gaeltacht, you'll have had a good time when you've had Football Special. So if we were based in, a worse part of the country, that wouldn't be true. But because people love Donegal, so that is where we're able to, build on.
Yes. You're not just in soft drinks too. You expanded into ice cream.
Yep.
When was that?
We probably by 2018 we've done the first ice cream. So we're always, we're in ice cream. Yeah.
Was that something that was just planned, or was it just let's just try it?
My dad was always messing around. Like, as a child, I remember him with an ice cream maker at home making Football Special flavor ice cream.
No way.
We were always messing around with it. And because it is, like we said, it's a unique flavor. So the flavor will work in anything, be it people who use it on on ribs. Like there's restaurants who are doing football special flavor ribs.
I feel like I've seen that, or maybe you said it to me previously.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel
no,
like I've heard of it anyway.
yeah. So
Who is that?
well, the Sunny Olive and Dairy were doing it. They were the
Okay,
first
the Sunny
probably to do
Olive.
it. It's it's so the flavor can do other things. Um, so ice cream then kind of came natural to that. And but ice cream that was a great journey, because again, what an enjoyable experience trying to develop an ice cream flavor. Once like that was enjoyable.
Yes.
And that was cool. Like the ice cream comes and goes. I would say we have tried a lot of things with the brand to try and give us growth. And so even last week we just did the football jerseys, which were a big hit. You're trying to put.
Tell me more.
So we designed two styles of retro football jerseys, and we approached O'Reilly's Sports to say, can you
I
manufacture
think I've
these?
seen them.
So they were fantastic. So they sold out in a couple of days there last week. And again, the brand has a story about it. So it's about where do we put that story. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a soft drink. It can be ice cream. It can be you buying some merchandise of mine.
Yes.
Because again, like I'm also aware too, as my age now, like people do age out of football special, and consumption of sweet and soft drinks are down. So, the business in 50 years mightn't look like it looks like now. It might be that we're a brand of something else, whatever. But it's about, and that's okay. Once the fundamentals of like, that we're this Donegal brand that's based in Donegal, that's rooted in the environment of here. That can become a jersey then. That can become whatever it is that fits them, that ethos, I guess.
Yeah, and like obviously because you're a unique flavor, it's made your business unique in a way that has given you your own space in time that hasn't really been challenged.
Correct. I mean,
You know?
there's the two reasons that we're still around. Is the first reason is because we're based in Donegal, right? So it's the Donegal's independent spirit. That's why we're still here. So people here are loyal to us, and it's not just. Obviously, the people who pick us off the shelf are loyal to us. They want to buy the product. But it's the people who own the shops and own the restaurants who have continued to stock football special. When there's a lot of outside noise to stop them doing that. You'll walk into anywhere you see like a Coca-Cola fridge. Coca-Cola will tell you, don't put football special in that fridge, just put Coca-Cola in there. And they'll put a lot of pressure on you to say no to that. So only for the independentness of Donegal people who've said, no, I'm going to stock. I'm going to, you can give me your fridge and I'll put a lot of Coke in there, but I'll put some football special as well. We wouldn't be still around. So that, and then couple that with it's a unique flavor, so nobody else can do it. Nobody else can copy it because we're not just another orange. Like we're a unique flavor. So so yeah, you're 100% right. The flavor has been key to everything we've done.
Yeah, but and then I'm thinking about the expansion of ice cream now, jerseys, like, it's that uniqueness that can go into everything, like,
Yeah.
which is really interesting, because it gives you longevity in business, like, is it easy running? Why
Sorry,
not?
cut you off. No, it's very tough.
What's tough?
We are competing against absolute giants in our field. I mean, listen, if we did a vox pop in the street and asked people to name 5 brands off the top of your head, Coca-Cola would be one they'd say, and Pepsi might be too far behind, and Lucozade would be pretty close up there as well. So I'm only competing against other massive companies who have huge budgets, who can manipulate the market to whoever they see fit. So it's very challenging. And we and our growth story is fantastic and brilliant, but it's also necessary. We won't still be around in 4 generations at the size we are now. So for us to still be around 4 more generations, we're going to have to become bigger. We're going to have to be, I'd say our tagline is world famous in Donegal, but we want it to become world famous from Donegal. That's how we want, so we want it to be that you're, all over the island, you're, or really all over the world, and you're consuming our product. And that is a necessity for us, because it's only with us being bigger that we can then properly defend ourselves against the bigger guys. So, but it's difficult. Where I'm lucky is that I've got a really great team. We've got 5 people who work in the business. Everybody who's worked there, we had one person start 2 years ago, but most people are there for a long time. So, one of our guys is there for 35 years. The staff don't really leave when they get into football special, which I'm incredibly proud of, that obviously we foster a good environment to work. But because they don't leave, they take it just as seriously as I take it. So it's easy to go into work because I can trust all of the people I work with to do the right thing at all times. So that makes it easy. So um, it's the job is hard more than the work is hard. If that makes sense.
Yes, yes. Um, and I suppose then, how do you ensure that you're always showing up, in them hard moments, them hard days?
Well, it is about perseverance and trying to do things with a smile on my face. I guess you're just about trying to. You got to be just confident in the brand. You got to have serious belief. Like I have a serious belief in Football Special. That it's not phony. I haven't just came up with this idea. Like the idea has been proven, obviously, through three generations before me. But I love Football Special. I love all our drinks and our ice creams and our jerseys. So if I can convey that passion to the retailers and then to the people to try us, then we've got a chance to succeed. So it's about believing and then building that belief on a bedrock of good values. So you're doing the right thing. Again, we're only around through four generations, the same thing, because we've been good people all the way along. I don't have much memory of my grandfather, but he must have been a good dude, or we still, we wouldn't have had these people with these good stories of Football Special. People wouldn't have worked for us for years if we didn't treat people the right way. So that gives you a grounding then that you can build upon. So it's not about cutting corners and, cutting costs for the sake of it. It's about, can you be confident in something, build it on the values of your business, and then take it to the world. It may still fail, but at least it will fail with the best. You've tried your best as such, and it is also probably important to acknowledge failure. Like as in loads of stuff we've done in the past hasn't worked. Loads of my ideas have not worked. And that's okay too. It's like, all right, we tried it and we move on to something else,
Yeah.
So I have a great belief in the brand, and in the product, but, I also have a really great life outside of work. So and that's important,
And when you say outside of work,
Well, I mean, I'm very lucky. I'm married to a great woman, and then we've two small kids now. So uh, my wife Gillian has been a very big component of the business because, and I don't just mean in a behind every great man sort of cliched line. I mean, she's done a lot of the marketing has come from her ideas and her background, but it is critical. The support that she has afforded me is what's allowed me then to go into work happy every day because she's like, yeah, you got this. She's my biggest supporter, and that's pretty big. That's I do think that that's sort of the biggest determining factor of whether you'll be a successful entrepreneur. I think is the people you surround yourself with, and you won't surround yourself with anybody more important than your spouse. So she, again, it wasn't in her life vision to move to Ramelton. When she grew up in Queens, she didn't think she could live in Ramelton. But I said, do you want to do it? It's not, she said, yeah. When I say, do you want to live in Ramelton? She says, yes. When I say, I'm going to try this business opportunity, she'll say, okay, no problem, go for it. But she's 100% behind every decision that I make. And vice versa. I'd like to think I'm 100% behind every decision she makes. But that means that there's no stress in the evenings outside of the normal stress. We have a 6-week-old, 7-week-old baby there. So
congratulations.
So the stress in the middle of the night is still real. We still fight over the normal stuff, but the big stuff is key. And the same thing. She's not saying get out, go get a proper job and go and be a salesperson for Coca-Cola and we'll earn more money. She's not saying that. She's like, do whatever makes you happy. Do. So that's a key component.
Yes. And the growth of the company over the decades, I assume that it's always grown. Has it always been that, or has there been times where it's been down?
No, there's been plenty of times it's been down, but I say no, there's been plenty of much harder times than now. Definitely the last crash was very difficult. But that was more to do, say, with the alcohol wholesale side of the business than it was the branded part of it. But no, there's been a lot more hard times. And again, we are very small. There's no two ways around it.
You could be very big to me, though.
Yeah, well,
do you know what I mean?
Well,
it depends how you're comparing yourself
to. Yeah. But compared to the other soft drink brands, we're not very small in Donegal. And so if we could just replicate that by 32, we'd be not small, But we're always, when you're a small business, and I know, I listened to the podcast you have with Laura from Muff as well. I would think, have the same sentiment. Like, you're always a few months away from disaster. Like, and that's the thing. Whereas like Coke can bring a whole product out and it could be a complete flop and it doesn't matter because they have the runway, they have the cash to afford to do that. So we're not in that situation at the moment. Like, so we have to grow for necessities, but like, yeah, we need to grow so we can get to a scale that makes it more successful. And, you know, I was at an Irish Drinks Forum yesterday. There's lots of really cool people doing like cool, mostly spirit, doing cool whiskey around the country. They're struggling at the moment with tariffs in America. But they're all saying the same thing. Like, you know, Irish whiskey is such a small component yet. And if you strip Jameson out, it's tiny and they have to get to a certain scale. So if you want to be in the drinks business, you've got to be a certain size, and we're not quite at that size yet.
Then what about the roadmap? I assume there's a roadmap. You know, I know there's a vision, and you're probably, I suppose I'm thinking, trying to capture all of Ireland. I know you're doing that with little, and then getting to the world. Because I imagine getting to Ireland, I feel like that won't be a problem. The rest of Ireland. What about getting out of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, we are fortunate enough in that we're already doing some stuff around Glasgow, so we have some, you know, some footprint there.
What I mean, sorry, is getting to the people who are not Irish.
Yeah. Well, where I would say we're unique flavor. So when I would talk to an English retailer, a shopkeeper, whatever, they would say, well, we load of soft drinks. And I'd say, well, you don't actually have anything that tastes like this because you don't have anything. So I'm not coming in giving you another energy drink. This is like totally different. So that is a big, you know, advantage to us. And it, you know, to grow it internationally, the same things will be true. People in Britain are also looking for something with a story that's a smaller scale and things. So we can fulfill that need. And thankfully, soft drink flavors are relatively homogenous around the world. You know, Coca-Cola is the number one in most markets. People kind of like the same taste in their soft drinks. So if we can just learn lessons in each market and do each market individually, there's no reason it shouldn't be available in every country in the world as such. It's not, it's because the flavor is unique and soft drinks are sold everywhere. So the roadmap really is get Ireland sorted and learn the lessons from there and see how they go abroad. So, you know, Britain to be the next natural place. And to be honest, we may end up cracking Britain before we crack the island of Ireland, because it is, you know, I got this advice a couple of years ago. It's very true. If the soft drinks buyer in Dunnes Stores has never heard a football special, let's say, the soft drinks buyer in Sainsbury's also probably has never heard a football special, but the Sainsbury's buyer their market is so much bigger than the Dunnes buyer that why would you really be too concerned about Dunnes? Just get to the front of the Sainsbury's person. So that gives me a lot of confidence. It's like, yeah, actually this could be exported outside of, you know, here. So it'll just be hard work. It's just be hard graft. You know, trying to grow a brand is incredibly hard and takes a lot of money. But again, if your fundamentals are good and things are going the right way, then you'd be confident about moving forward.
Yeah, I would say you definitely need a lot of courage, you know, to move forward and try different markets, because it can be challenging on a company too.
Yeah. You got to be. I mean, and I do get inspired. Like, it's not, it's very challenging, but obviously what people are doing around the county is very inspiring. You know, I think what Sleeve League Distillery is doing is incredible. Like, they've built a world-class distillery in Ardra. Like, you know, and what James and Moira are doing there, and their story of coming back to Donegal and restarting this heritage of distilling here, that inspires me. And the same, all the other people in the county that are doing exciting things, like what Mulryans have built, you know, a business that was very comparable to us back in the 1980s, and they're now this, you know, huge national juice business. And what Kinniger are doing, Kinniger being a really big craft soda or craft beer in Ireland, I'd go, okay, I just follow what these guys are doing. They're the leaders. I'm just following what they're doing. If they can do it, it's not to say if they can do it, I can do it, but it's like, well, what can I learn from them? And I mean, then people like name checked are all incredibly open and will tell me, you know, they give me lots of advice. So there is a map that other people have used before. You know, so, and it would be much harder if I was building this from scratch. It'd be much harder because I wouldn't have the stories of the kids going and playing after football. I'd be just making them, they'd be starting now. But because I have these book of stories behind me, I have something.
That's good then that you have the people like that who are already on that path, because a lot of the time people in business, they don't, you know, they're scared. Maybe they don't know people. Sometimes there's a part of us like, oh, I don't need any information from anyone because I know it all myself too, you know?
I mean, I think that is an important component. Like that. First of all, some people come to me with ideas and they say, "Oh, I don't want to share this idea, like, in case somebody would rob the idea." The idea, I guarantee you're not the first person with the idea, right? Unless you're like a mad scientist coming up with something in a lab, you're not the first person. But that doesn't really matter, because if it hasn't been existed yet, it means nobody else has done it yet. But even if somebody else has done it, just do it and do it better. Doesn't that's not key. But also then ask for help. Go and ring people. People are incredibly receptive to calling. I mean, I have my business now. Like, we have an advisory board, so I have a board, basically a board of directors. I came back to the business and I had a target list of people to put on my board. My dad was like, "You're mad. There's no money involved with this."
When you say target, like targets for
like people, I was like, "These are what I want. These are the people I want on my board." I don't know these people, but I'm like, they're in the industry. I reckon I've heard them talk, or I've heard them on a podcast. I reckon that person would be good on my board. But I've never heard of these people. Don't know me as such. And every of the 5 people on the list, 4 said no problem. Right? They're like, "Yeah, why would I not be on your board? That's cool." So we have a very, very vibrant board meeting now 4 times a year. They all give up their time. They get a hamper of football special at Christmas time, and they give up their time free of charge, whatever, because they want to see a smaller business. You see, they're like, they want to give me advice. They want to be part of the journey as well. But there are enough financial reasons behind it. So if I can have that advisory board, everybody can have an advisory board. And that's, so like, you just got to go and identify the people and then ask. Just have the courage to ask. Because even if it's a no, people will say no in a nice way. It's not wild what you're asking for. So that would be, and that's, again, the board, the way I've put that advisory board together has been a huge building block to build a business on. Because what I found in America was, being your own boss can be hard, obviously financially hard, but there is a lot of like advantages. Like, it's well known, the flexibility is an advantage. But where I found the challenge is, you can justify anything to yourself, but when I go to the board, I'll say to the board, "Oh, well, I didn't do this because of that," and the board will say, "Well, that's nonsense, Seamus, just do that," and then in the next board meeting it has to be done. So they're basically like I have a boss, basically.
yeah.
And that's been transformative, I would say.
So that's like every quarter you check in the performance in that quarter, have a discussion, open discussion, and good honest feedback. Yeah. I have a few friends who have that in their company, and when I started to hear more about it, it's like, geez, there's a lot of benefit to that, because you're getting so many different perspectives. And as you say, having maybe 4 other bosses as such, coming in and sharing and helping. I think a lot of people could do with more of that, But in terms of the format itself in the board meeting, how does that work?
So, well, I am lucky. My dad chairs it, and he has chaired a lot of boards, so like he's good at that. So he runs it. But we usually do Zoom 3 times a year, and then once I'll try to get them to Donegal if it works for their schedules. And it's like a board meeting. Like, we have, we look at the sales for the last quarter and versus the last couple of years, and then we talk about different, whatever ideas that are on my mind or whatever business challenges I've hit. And yeah, you're getting honest feedback from them. I say they have no skin in the game. They just want to see me succeed. So you're getting really great feedback. But you're also getting people who are in the industry. So they are like, "Yeah, okay, that idea is crazy, Seamus, stop that right now." Or, "Oh yeah, there's a kernel of work in that. Where you go." And they don't, like, it's important to say, like, they don't then open their Rolodex up to me to just be like, "You go and contact all these people." But they just validate my idea. But it's outside. It's not your friends and family saying that's a good idea, because they'll say it because they don't want to hurt your feelings, or they might say it because they don't know any better. Whereas these are people in the industry who are like, "Yeah, you couldn't. That's a good idea. That's a bad idea. Run with that one."
So then, if you get ideas, do you hold out until the meeting?
Well, yeah. Well, a lot of the time I'll start anyway, and then they'll come back and they'll say, "Hold on, why did you do that?" But yeah, you run ideas by them, and and different challenges that we'd have. So, and I don't, yeah, and it is funny how many times they say, "No, that's a bad idea. I wouldn't."
Has it always been a bad idea? Or has things been good?
Oh yeah, no. I've had plenty of good ideas.
Yes.
Yeah. No, thankfully, I've had plenty of good ideas. But I mean, again, I think every idea I have is a good idea. But like, it's just how you, and it might be a good idea. I might have just done it wrong. It might be about, when I was in New York, like, and I was selling Irish food and drink, you're always looking for different things. Like I sold New Zealand premium water. That was a complete dud, right? I thought we sold a box of water basically. So instead of the big gallons, the big drum of 5 litre water you would see here, it was in just a bag. It was like a pouch, and the US military or the New Zealand military used it. I was like, that's perfect because that's way more sustainable. No, I ended up shipping that stuff to Puerto Rico to the hurricane disaster for free.
Wow.
Like, that was a full container load of stuff, a total financial disaster. I sold Italian coffee that was meant to replace Nespresso pods, and the guys, I fully believe this. He's like, oh, an espresso, like that's Swiss. They're engineers. What do they know about coffee? Buy their machine because it's well engineered, and then use my pods. Total disaster. I ended up dumping a bunch of that coffee. I sold Irish sausages out of the back of a van. I did a bread run for about a week because I was like, I could tack on bread to this. All bad ideas. These are all bad ideas that I've had. Like, but where you got it, but it was important to drop a bad idea quickly. That's important, but also not to dwell on it. Just move on to the next thing. Whatever. It is what it is. You've got a bad idea. Go do something else. Again, if you're a good person, it's like, whatever. You had a bad idea. Who cares? Move on to the next thing.
Yeah. What would you say then your best idea contributed to McDaid's football special?
Well, I'd say my that's a good question, but probably but
the one you're most proud of, maybe.
I'm probably most proud that I moved home and that I now have a very happy home lifestyle. That's probably what I'm most proud of. I have managed to find security in my personal life that affords me the luxury then to go and mess about at work. That's what I'm most proud of. And again, I'm most proud that even the transition from my dad to me, there's an argument, a family business transition, that can be, that goes wrong all the time. Like there's lots of messy stories about that. We transitioned smoothly, and so I'm proud of that, because my dad had sort of said, listen, like the staff mightn't like you in the way they like me. Don't take that personal, and which I probably wouldn't have, but you would have tried to have not, but I would have. But the fact that the staff are quite happy to come along and journey with me now instead of him, that's what I'm most proud of. So yeah. I'm proud that I'm most proud of that. Yeah, that we have a good reputation. Like we sell fizzy sweet water that tastes nice. Like it's not too serious. Like, but what's serious is about your reputation outside of work. And I think I have a good reputation, and that's what I'm most proud of.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'm a fan, so it seems like the reputation is very good to me.
Yeah.
One thing that I never actually thought about until now is how is it made? How do you make? I mean, maybe it's just they're all made the same. Obviously, I don't need to know the flavors, but what's the process?
Yeah, so we blend 7 flavors together basically in a big vat as such, and then that's mixed
with water, all the different.
The flavors are typically liquefied flavors already, so they're and it's mixed with water, and then at the same time as we're blending what the syrup we would call the syrup, so it's sugar and water that's blended together, so just sweet water, and you push the two of them things together into a machine called a premix unit, and it pumps it full of CO2 gas, which gives it the bubbles. And then you stick it in a bottle under pressure. That's the difference. So that's the science behind it is that, it's carbonated. So when the bottle is on the bottling line, then the cap goes on top of the bottle. There's no oxygen there. So it's sealed then. So it's only when you crack it open, the oxygen bubble or the CO2 bubbles start to explode out of the bottle. And that's where you get the fizz. So it's a relatively straightforward thing. Soft drinks manufacturing isn't, hugely complicated. But and we don't do anything where we're unique. Where we are unique is that we source high quality flavors that are expensive, and we use natural flavors, and that you can get artificial flavors which are far cheaper, but they would taste worse. And so for us, the taste is key. So we use natural flavors that that are premium, and that's what makes it taste the way it does. And we've never went away from that. So that's important too.
Yeah, and that's all made like in one day, bottled, ready to go.
You can start in the morning. We now use a bunch of different bottling facilities. So we have lots of different places who make different formats for us. Some people, we have a place that puts it in cans first, and we have another place that puts it in glass. And
I haven't seen a can.
Yeah, well, the can is sort of comes and goes, but they will come properly this winter. You'll see it forever more, hopefully. Yeah, so yeah, it's all made in one day basically. Yeah, or well, yeah, basically one day.
So you said other people manufacture for you or bottle it for you.
Yeah,
So you've contracted the drink
yeah,
out.
yeah.
Do you ship the drink already made, or do
I
they?
ship the syrup, so we have
Yes.
so all they do is add sugar and water then basically,
Okay.
and fizz.
Yeah.
But then we take care of the ingredient, the flavors that go together with it.
And
So
then you take care of the distribution
then
as
we
well.
take it.
So
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they would they be factories around
Some
the
of them are in
country?
Ireland, some of them aren't in Ireland. But yeah, so it ships out from Ramelton and then ships back to Ramelton and then goes out from Ramelton. And we distribute everything then from there
Okay,
as
so
well.
it's not bottled in
It's not
Ramelton?
bothered in Ramelton anymore.
Okay.
No, no. And that was a huge decision that my dad made when I wasn't involved in the business. And he was, could the brand survive not having the factory in Ramelton? But what we thought was, important was once we keep the ingredients, and once we tell people only bottle to our spec. So like literally when we go to a new manufacturer, we go into the factory and every time somebody manufactures a football special, I'm standing on the line beside the guy and tasting, bottles as they come off the line. So once it's done to our spec and our standards, then that's fine. Like we're happy we can condone that. And that's how we do it now. And that's how we
And
do
I
it.
suppose that was a strategic move.
Yeah, yeah. The factory was too small to continue to do it, and where I got lucky probably then is I am not an engineer, nor am I. I'm not. Nor does my mind work in process. So I'd have been terrible at running the factory, absolutely terrible. And even if I hadn't been terrible, it would have took all my energy. Whereas because I don't have a day-to-day factory to run, that's allowed me to look at other opportunities like the can. So we got, and to put it in context as well, like we get the can manufactured, we put in a can down in Mullingar, and we started the first can run maybe this time last year, and we were in the factory floor about to run, and the guy said, "Oh, I just got to send you my health and safety documents for you to fill out." So he WhatsApped me the health and safety documents, and the last message I'd sent him was in March 2020, and that was the kickoff meeting. And so it had taken 4 years like to get that off the ground. So that's how slow things go. Like things take a long. So if you have a business idea and you think I'm tracking this for 6 months, like blah blah, like 4 years for me, an established business to get a can out there. So like these things don't happen overnight. Like
Yeah. I also think though a business that grows slower and steady is one that has like the fact that you've already got this far. It just sounds like it's a business that will go on for a very long time.
well, I think if you're the difference of slow and steady growth is that you're learning. So the graph doesn't go up. Obviously, it's a step graph. Like it goes up and down, slightly. But once it's constantly trending in the right direction, you probably learn your mistakes along the way, and that's the difference. Whereas if you explode overnight, you might think, well, this success is here forever. Like even my experiences now in Little, like we're in the Middle Island Little, so we come and go out of there. So we have had a couple of orders this year. I don't have any more on the docket until the end of the year. Doesn't mean I won't get more, but they might decide go in a different direction in 2026. They might not decide. So but I'm aware of that now. Whereas if I had just launched Football Special and been straight into Little, I would think, well, this is it forever. This is what it's going to be forever. Like, but slow and steady growth, probably, yeah, you learn mistakes along the way.
Is there an experience that I can go? If I wanted to experience what the factory was like.
No, not at the moment. That is on the whiteboard. That is, that's in the 5-year plan.
Yeah,
Eventually, yes, you'll be able to come to Ramelton, and there will be a small pilot plant there, and you'll be able to come and see how Football Special is made. But that's. You'll know him. You can name. You can. I'll invite you to the grand opening, Ryan. Because now I've said it now publicly. It'll definitely happen.
Well, we can cut that out. If you
No,
want.
no. It's totally fine.
I'm just thinking it'd be cool, like, because you could go there. Maybe there could be a small football pitch. You could, I'm sure there's lots of
Listen,
ideas.
they're all that. If you could see what I have a mood board, which whatever. Like these things can be cringy and stuff too. But it's like whatever. It focuses your mind. It's not that it's going to happen. But I'm a Newcastle United fan, so like there's a jersey with Football Special on the front of Newcastle. There's like Willy Wonka's factory that we've photo imaged into like on the quay in Ramelton, and like these are all ideas that you'd like to get to. Like they're all things that we're working towards.
Class.
So yeah, it's far from in the works, but it's definitely something that we would like to do.
I think it's important to set like your whatever it is, like the bar really, really high, you know. It gives you a lot to strive for, and it's like reach for the stars, fall on the cloud, that kind of.
Well, ambition is one of our values in the business. And it's only when I got outside consultants came in, and not just talking to me, talking to the people who work with me, we all were ambitious. And he was like, I want you to know, he came away from me, he's like, I want the people in the room to know it's not standard what you're saying. The businesses your size in Ireland that have no aspirations to grow any bigger and can't even visualize it. You in this room can all visualize it. So it still needs to happen, but you are definitely ambitious. Like it's not normal. Like it's not normal to think that you could be on the Newcastle United jersey, like, you know, like, and that's not just me. The other people were like, yeah, I could see how Football Special could sponsor Newcastle. So I'm saying you're bringing people on the journey as well. And yeah, you got to be ambitious. And it happens. Like how does Flora get Russell Crowe as an investor? Like, you know, she gets it because she's ambitious and she went after it and got it. So that's that. You know, there are good. There's lots of good success stories out there.
I can see your ambition.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really, really interesting because I can see, you know, the drive and what it takes for Football Special to continue.
I mean, I'm very passionate about it. Like, I'm very passionate about Football Special and about Donegal and things like that. Like, I'm very passionate about the life that, you know, I live and everything is, you know, and the brand and where we can get to. And you know, that's probably a big component of it too. Like, you got to be passionate about this. Like, you got to love it. Like, you know, because again, this is cliche to say, but it really is all about the journey. Like, and the people, they say we launched football jerseys last week, whatever, that had been a big success, and people would say, like, we keep buzzing after that, and you sort of go, no, because like it's just another business milestone. It's just another thing we do in work. I'm buzzing about getting home at the end of the day and seeing my children, like, you know. So, but you also have to love the grind. Like, I'm not buzzing about, you know, the last delivery went into Lidl and pallets fell over and here I am scrambling to rebuild pallets, like, to get them back out again. Like, if that upset you so much, you'll never have succeed. Like, you have to, all these blips are going to happen. So you have to take them smoothly, and then the highs, you have to take them smoothly and love everything that you do. I love having to rebuild the pallets, like, you know, having to do the rubbish stuff, like, because then you'll love when the good things happen. And that's what gives me my drive. But I have a lot of drive. I'm very, very passionate about it. I'm very, very ambitious. I have an awful lot of drive to make this succeed, and succeed while bringing other people with me. You know? And that's where we hope to get to.
But it's like you're already succeeding.
Yeah, I mean, we're succeeding in the sense that we are still around, as I say,
and growing,
and growing. Yes, and growth the growth has been fantastic. I mean, and this year alone has been an amazing growth. We're growing, and I guess we're succeeding. Yeah, but we got to succeed more. I guess, if that makes sense.
I hear you. Well, Seamus, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's so interesting to hear you speak. It's so interesting to hear the story of McDaid's Football Special. It was funny because you crossed my mind. I mean, when I see you, McDaid's Football Special, a few weeks ago, and I was like, oh, but you know what? I'd love to hear. I want to hear from businesses in Donegal, because we kind of focus right now. It's just Derry and Donegal area. You know, people around and people in business, and you know, it is a fascinating story. Everyone knows who McDaid's Football Special is. I'm sure people in Derry do too. You know, and it's still around, and it's bigger than ever. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here, and it is great. The ecosystem that we're growing here in Donegal is fantastic. I'm involved with the Donegal Food Coast as well, and to see other food businesses that are, you know, doing really cool things in the county is very inspiring, because, you know, as I say, not only does my business here, my family life is here too, and so I want to see Donegal succeed as best we can, and make this a great place for all future generations to live and work. So thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. And if people want to buy some Football Special, if they're based down the country,
go on our website, football-special.com, and we ship all over the country and all over Europe, really. So,
and if they want to reach out to you,
you'll get me on the website, and you'll get me on Instagram as well. You know, McDaid's Football Special. You'll find us there.
I'll get you first. Going to be greedy there. Ooh. Cheers. It tastes so good.
Still, hopefully it still tastes the same as what you remember.
Oh,
That's
it
the
does,
thing.
surely.
Yeah.
It does.
You know.
Brings me back to when I was a child.